I feel like it's hot for dudes though.
Yeah.
For women, it's like
cool.
For women, it's like the same thing as like when you see a woman work out. It's like look away. Just don't look at her working out. For men working out, it's hot.
Yeah.
For the woman working out, it's like borderline like.
So you agree
birthing.
There's a double standard.
Yeah. I don't want to see a video of a chick working out. It doesn't look the same. So she's giving birth.
Anyways, well, welcome to the show, guys. Welcome back, babe.
Hi.
Hi. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
You know, our retail partner, it was nice because I don't really dig all like the happy holidays. I feel like every time you say happy holidays, it's just because you don't want to say Merry Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's like a point people make. You're right.
Yeah. And anyways, they all got on there because you're all young retail people from Salt Lake City. I'll let you figure out where that goes. But they're always like, Merry Christmas, you know, and they're all super excited. And I was like, that's so nice.
Makes me feel good.
Makes me feel good. Merry Christmas. Yeah. Anyways, so what's going on?
So the biggest thing is like, I feel like we do this every year. We usually do it after the first of the year, but I thought it would be a good idea to kind of do it as we're wrapping up, right? Because everybody is trying to get through the holidays, whether this podcast comes out the day before Christmas or a couple days after. We're getting through the holidays. We're getting through dealing with, you know, wild family situations, things that we're not always like mentally prepared for. I don't know. You know, there's everybody's got people in their life and crazy ass family. Everybody.
Oh, our house is about to be a complete shit show.
It's about to be a shit show.
Yeah.
We're going to have every bed out.
Yep.
Every
single spare mattress, bed.
People are bringing their animals.
Yeah.
We've got live animal. We got we're about to.
You want to come over, Brandon? You want to add to the?
It's going to be great. It's just what we've always wanted, right?
No, I really do like it.
But it is. It's kind of
as
hard.
long as I'm in my house, I'm okay.
Right?
Yeah, as long as I'm in my house.
What is really hard is when people have to travel and you got.
I don't want to do any of that.
Right. It's a whole ordeal. So it's kind of nice that we get to have it at our house. Everybody's coming to us. We get through that period, right? And then it's like it's time to reset. It's time to regroup. Like, what do you want for your life? What do you want out of life this year? 2025, babe, I was born in 1985. Do you know what that means?
You're turning 40.
This is the year I turned 40 coming upon us.
And you're excited about it.
I am so fucking excited about it.
I think you just want to be able to tell people you're 40.
I'm 40.
And then you do all the things that you do.
Well, only because this is the deal. When I turned 30, this was not the case. You know what happened on my 30th? Do you remember? We were together.
We were in Vegas.
We were in Vegas.
We went to a bar and celebrated.
Got shit-faced.
Yeah.
And I sat at my friend's house on my 30th birthday, and she bought me sushi. I got super drunk and just at Aaron's and just like laid around. And I remember thinking.
No. I thought we celebrated your 30th in Vegas.
Yeah, that was like
or is that
the
29?
Day before. No, that was like the day before my birthday, I think. And then actual birthday, I went back home. But we were in Vegas leading up to that. And
we went to a hole in the wall dive bar and had lunch or something.
And they gave us like a cookie cake and they sang to me. Yeah. But like where I was in my life when I turned 30 was like not great.
No, it wasn't for neither of us.
I was in the middle of like working out my divorce. You and I had started seeing each other, but we were a mess. And like my life, I felt like was like I had to restart over because I just like lost my house, lost my stepkids. My husband and I were done. It was clear we weren't going to figure it out.
What year was that? 14? 15?
See, 30, it would have been 15.
Yeah.
Yeah, 15.
Going into 15.
Uh-huh. Going into 15. And it was just,
we were both broke.
In disheveled. Like, I just remember thinking at that age, like, God, my life couldn't get any freaking worse.
Yeah.
10 years later.
You didn't even have a place to live.
I didn't even have a place to live. I was, because I'd moved out of, like, the house that I bought with him. Yeah. And I didn't want to take it because the kids still lived there with him. So I was like, I'll go stay with my parents. I didn't know what to do next. It was just a reboot, right?
Yeah.
10 years later, I feel like my life, like, can't get any better. I mean, I'm sure it can, but, like.
Oh, it could definitely get better.
I'm, like, so frigging thankful. But looking at the last 10 years, it was so much work.
Yeah. Well, that's why I always tell people, I'm like, this isn't going to be like the road to growth, the road to happiness isn't what everybody tells you. It's not chasing happiness. It's like I know you want to talk about the Agogi a little bit, but it's like a catch-22. Do I want people to join the Agogi? Absolutely. Is it going to make their life easier? No. Mm-mm. It's going to make your life harder. However, you're going to feel what you're talking about. You're going to feel more rewarded. You're going to feel happier. But it's actually harder.
It's so much more work.
Yeah.
But it's choose your hard.
But
right?
Choose your hard.
Choose your hard. Yeah. What was hard then was waking up with a hangover every day and being broke and being overweight. And feeling like crap when I just did normal activities because I'd eat shit, And
your 1,500 calorie Starbucks.
Right, right. Like all those things that just made me feel like crap, dealing with a divorce, all that stuff. Like all that was hard. But now my life is hard that like stuff that I love, like getting up at 5 and training jiu-jitsu. That's hard, but I love it, right? Making sure that like my macros are filled in every day and I'm like tracking my food.
And it's
hard.
Easier not to wake up earlier and go. Mm-hmm. But you won't feel as good.
No.
Yeah.
Now it's like I'm chasing that discipline because it makes me thrive. So what do you have to say? Like that's what I want to talk about. Like because people who don't know what the Agogi is, like it's changed my life, like 1,000%. What we've opened up with the Agogi has altered the course of my life and who I am as a person. And I want it for everybody, but it's hard to sell that.
It is hard to sell.
It's hard to sell hard.
Yeah, because it's a very intangible thing. You can say, hey, well, you're going to get fitter, you're going to make more money, you're going to have a better relationship with your wife. But what does that mean? Like, how do you get that? And, we started the Agogi in 2018 and it wasn't named that then. The name didn't come out until 2020. I
mean, you'd always wanted to have the Agogi.
We started talking about it in 2015.
Before me, I feel like.
Yeah, it was always something that we had planned to do. But then we just started this program and it really started 2018. There was a huge boom in the online fitness, world.
Space, yeah.
Coaching space. And it's weird. It wasn't really planned. It was from Josh and my own transition in 2018. Or really 16 to 18 was there was a big window from 14. There's like chapters here. When I got out of the Marine Corps, from 2012 to 2014 was a chapter. It was not good. I mean, not good at all. It was really, really bad. It was before I met you. From between that time is when like the suicide contemplation and attempt was happening. Hormones were a wreck, weight gain, all that stuff. And
you were also going through a divorce.
I was going through a divorce as well. Kids were involved, so that made it even worse. I lost my job. So I went from making like close to $200,000 a year to nothing, to my military, disability, and so that compounded. I was drinking heavily, and then 2014.
That Maker's Mark.
You remember?
I remember.
Yeah. 2014 happened is when I met you, and that's when that year is around the time when I knew things were broken. They had to be fixed, but I didn't have a solution for it, right? So 14 to 16 was like me trying to get my shit together, right? And it was that journey of physical fitness, going back to like really understanding who I was back in special operations, who I was to a core of myself, and you've always kind of used that line of like, your life is basically perseverance to adversity, from childhood to teenage years to the Marine Corps to then coming out of the Marine Corps. And that's really where I had to remind myself how far I'd come and what I was truly made of. And I kind of forgotten that. or not necessarily forgotten, but just hadn't applied that in my personal life outside of the military. So that's when we started to do it. And 16, filed for bankruptcy. That was a huge hit. Right when the businesses are kind of taking off, like you and I got together 2 years before that. And then so things were starting to move. By no means were they like taking off, but they were.
For us, we were making enough to live.
Yeah, we were
out from scratch. we had nothing we had our hands, and we're like, let's make enough to live.
You weren't eating off bars that some company was sending us to.
Hey man, those things got me through.
Yeah. Allie lived off protein bars for like months.
Didn't shit for months. No, just kidding.
But so 16 to 18 that was a big growth year, and then 18 is when like I really feel like things turned around. Like 2018 is when things started to take off.
Do you have an idea or like a memory of one thing or?
I stopped drinking.
Okay.
I stopped drinking and I got very serious. We started to kill off our darlings because in 16 to 17, we grew from a couple businesses to 7 businesses.
Like, whatever, if it's going to make us money, let's try it.
Yeah. And so at one time we had 7 different businesses.
I'm pretty sure there were like 7 of us.
And there,
Total.
And we had a very small team. And of course I was the typical entrepreneur where I just had shiny object syndrome. And because we had staff, because we had infrastructure, I just was like, oh, I have an idea. Let's do this to make money.
And then, I just remember this because it was like we set up a way to do things and you had figured out how to do e-commerce in a very smooth way, like to where, a couple of people could make a living, right?
Yeah.
And so then people started asking us to do stuff for them as well. Like, hey, can you do
so we
my
were bringing,
stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, we had multiple,
my stuff?
Yeah, we had multiple clients coming in that we were handling. And that really was, honestly, I think that was funding our lives more than anything at the time. And but that 16 to 18 was that growth of like multiple businesses, and 18 I feel like is when I was like, okay, now it's time to get serious. These are the 3 things
making money
that is making money that we're really passionate about. So we started to sell off businesses. We sold 2. We sold Spartan Carton, and we sold
3 because we sold
Scallywag,
Spartan Carton, and Ship on Site.
So we sold 3 businesses that did, and that brought in a good amount of money.
It was enough for us to go on to the next and hire some people and keep them employed.
So, and we really did that. That really gave us like a year's worth of funds,
salary
that we didn't have to do. We didn't have to really worry about anything. And 18 is when we started what we called surviving the cut, and it was really fitness orientated. And so for 2 years, Josh and I ran that, and we picked up our one of our guys that are still in the Agogi now as a coach. Jerry is when he signed up.
Jerry, we love you.
But there was a fundamental issue with that program, and I was still coming up. Like I had figured it out, stopped drinking, really got back to like hard over easy discipline. At that point, I knew who I was outside of the military. I knew what I wanted in life. I had a very clear, my hormones were completely back. I had a very clear vision and direction of where I wanted to go in life and what I wanted for us and our family. Like, you and I said I would never get married again. You and I proposed to you
that year.
Your response was a little whack, but whatever. We'll.
I said, are you sure? Because we'd said we weren't going to do it. So I was just like, are you sure?
Did this whole romantic thing, Brandon. I took her to Mexico. I planned this whole thing. I got the whole bracelet that we were going to use.
One knee.
I got on one knee. I set the camera up. The sun was setting. And she was like, are you sure? I'm like, what the fuck, man? I know. I'm like, I'm down here on my knee. It's hurting. I'm old.
I just knew that I mean, that was hard. Trying to determine whether or not we should do that was hard, but yeah. Now it's like, well, what an idiot, of course. But back then it was hard.
It was hard. It was because you didn't think that I was ever going to get on board. And then the whole kid thing too happened right around the same time. I decided I never said I wanted another kids. I got my girls. I'm good. They're grown-ish. I feel like your kids are never really grown, but they're grown-ish. And yeah, so that was a big chapter change, right? And then things started to really start to grow from that. And around that same time, I started to value coaching. And that was something, it's one, I guess I don't have many regrets, because I feel like all your mistakes and everything that you have leads you to where you're at. So you have to just own all the mistakes. You really have to own them as tuition payments in life. So I don't have many regrets. The one thing that I wish I would have done, and I know this is like, it almost sounds like a sales pitch, but it's not, is I wish I could have figured out how to get mentorship and coaching sooner. Now, I had Carl Munger was amazing. I wouldn't be the man that I am today. Yeah, well, I'm kind of going down the line. You know what I mean?
Those two people were
Carl,
so
instrumental in me becoming who I was. Carl and Kirk, 100%. And I found those people by walking. Like, they didn't come into my life. I came into their lives. And I think that's a lot. It's one point that people don't really, they're like, well, how did you find a mentor? Like, I had to walk the path. Like, you can't just go sitting in your couch and watch Netflix and wait for the mentor to show up. To call you. Like, you have to go walk down the yellow brick road like Dorothy did. And then she's going to come across the Tin Man and the Scarecrow and the Lion. And you're going to build your tribe as you're moving forward. And that was the key thing, is I decided in those early years that I was going to start moving forward. And that's when I found those people. So like they were instrumental. But then once I really, in 2018 to 20 is when I started to highly respect and seek out professional development through coaching and courses and different things. And that's when things started to, like, I mean, our business went, like, we're doubling business every year.
And see, that's the thing I've never, because like growing up in church, my parents being pastors, and like I always thought everybody like went to counseling and like went to like seminars, because we just did. My parents took us to all kinds of like self-help, growth meetings, seminars, schools, like all kinds of stuff. Like I remember when the time I was probably 16, my mom put me in a people skills class. And like
that was normal for you.
That was normal for me. We learned from other people.
Yeah.
And so I kind of thought everybody was open to that.
See, I come from the place, and oh man, I don't want this to make my family sound bad, but I came from a place that, and I know that you can resonate with this as well. I came from a place very poor, very poor mindset, and that everybody's kind of out to get you.
Oh yeah.
So you kind of like, you stay within your pack, you stay within your zone, and you don't step out too much, because
the thing that's so scary about that is that literally creates, like, for your life, you're set up for failure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you've created a limiting belief without even knowing it.
Which I did.
Which your whole family, like, if they believed that, really, then they have a limiting belief for the rest of their lives, and it'll keep them right there, because everyone wants to take you out.
And that's what, and that was the issue that I had was, that was the issue that I had was once I started to like achieve some things, like I achieved some things as a teenager. I did really well as a teenager.
Marine Corps, you did great.
Marine Corps did great. Got to one of the highest places in the Marine Corps, in the military, that you can get. But I had this belief based off of the past that, and because of that programming, that yes, I could be successful. And I've talked about this in the podcast a lot. And I could be successful. I just had to work 10 times harder than everybody else.
And I remember you used to tell me that all the time.
All the time. And I just thought, this is the way that it is. And you were like, that is not the way it is. I'm like, and then I would prove it to you.
See, it is.
I would be like,
did you see what happened?
Yeah. I was like, baby, you see?
And then I started to be like, well, maybe he's fucking cursed. I don't
know. But the reality was, I was constantly just manifesting my own reality. Because I believed that, it was. And I don't know the scripture, but as you say it, so it will be.
It's literally the scripture. It says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he.
Yeah. And I believed in my heart that yes, I could achieve great success. I could achieve great things. I just had to work 10 times harder than everybody else to achieve the same results. So I manifested that.
Okay, I have to tell a little story because you just made it spark into my head, okay? So along that line, like my personal thoughts about myself, like I never fully grasped what they were, right? Like I'm like, why am I stuck? Why am I stuck? You know, and you start diving in and asking yourself those kinds of questions. You'll have things kind of surface if you're really being serious and you're like meditating on those sorts of like, God, why am I here? Why do I feel stuck? Why can't I move forward? What's the glitch, right? So I had all this come to me when I went through a coaching program with a female black belt coach. Cause like I was dealing with in competition, just like this overwhelming sense of anxiety and like panic.
You would like literally shut down.
Yeah. My heart would race. I mean, I couldn't even be driving down the street and start thinking about a jiu-jitsu tournament. And my heart would like go through the roof to where my watch is like, hey, are you okay? Your heart rate's going through the roof. Like I could work myself up anywhere at any time into anxiety about competing. And I'm like, what is my deal? Like, this is just nuts. Right. So I started thinking back. Well, it started because, again, I'm not trying to make my dad sound bad, but this is just like what happened.
Your dad's great.
My dad is a wonderful human being, but he always like did this thing where it was like adding stress and pressure to you when you're under a pressure situation. And in his, defense, I'm sure he thought he was pushing us.
Well, he was a wrestling coach. Right. He wrestled his whole life.
He was a very successful athlete, and all the way he competed until he was 40 in wrestling. And he was exceptional, very good. And so like he pushed us so hard and was like, write us about stuff, And like if we said we were sick, he'd be like, no, you're not, get out of bed, go. Like no matter where we were. It was
real quick. I just want to say real quick, this is how it goes. You got held up at Sonic.
I was a car hop at Sonic and
got held up by gunpoint, robbed. The whole Sonic got robbed. Yeah. And then you were like, I'm not going to work. And your dad was like, of course you're going to work. They're not dumb enough to hit the same spot twice. And he was like, take your ass. You're going to be fine. Yeah, take your ass back to work.
They are going to come back today. Yeah. So that's kind of how my dad was. And in so many ways, I love it because I feel like it made me so much harder. I'm not a soft person because my dad pushed. Right. But like in other ways, I see it now in a different light. We were at the Kennedy Space Center with my son. And there is this like tube that kids can crawl through, but it's about 75, 80 feet above the ground. Well, what you don't know when you send them through it is that they can see it's clear and they can see everything underneath them. It's supposed to be cool, right? But I didn't know that. So I sent him through it and I'm at the other end of it. I'm like, okay, bud, come on. And he's just like shaking in like absolute terror. Mm-hmm. And my dad comes over and starts doing his thing. And he's like, Mitri, come on, let's go all the way to the end. We're talking, he's 3 years old at this time. Let's do it. You go. Come on. And I'm like watching my son just like have a panic anxiety attack. And I don't know why. So I climb in and I look down and I realize he's like 80 feet above the ground and he can see everything and he's starting to freak out.
And he's 3.
Yeah. So it made, but I remember it like instantly clicked. I remember my dad doing to me when I was in a stressful scenario. So like I would start to get more panicky.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If I was running late, he'd do it and be like, don't be the last one. Get in the car. And then I'd be more like ridiculous. Like I'd forget something and drop something and it would get like, it was like a cartoon. You're watching like the little kid that like spills his juice and he tries to clean it up and spills it again. Like that was me. And it just made me see under a stressful circumstance, reverted like to the way that I felt as a kid, which the way that he made me feel was that like, let's go, like don't be a baby, don't be an idiot, like move quicker, move faster, go harder. And I would just like total spaz, right? And I remember this time he was doing to me and I was mowing the grass. And I was like mowing the grass and I was starting to kind of freak because I felt like, I was probably 10. I started to feel like I couldn't handle the riding mower. And he's like, Allie, turn it, cut the turn. And I just like panicked and threw my hands up and crashed into a tree. Like that kind of like absolute stupidity. But there was some kind of little belief or idea that I wrote on my heart at that age that I wasn't good under pressure and that I couldn't compose myself under pressure, and that when things needed to be accurate and precise and serious
in a stressful,
that I wasn't good at that.
Yeah.
I told myself that in that moment at 10 years old.
I remember.
To where if anything came along that was like high stress, high impact, I would just panic. Just panic. And like to where like my jujitsu would just be like absolute trash. Like there was nothing I could even think. It was just like, ugh. So once I realized that, and this was in March when I went through this course and I was doing these meditations and I identified that, and when it happened, I like totally remembered it. I started to take that belief and say, that isn't true. I'm not a spaz under pressure. I can handle myself. I can retain like information. I can keep my calm. I started to like put on the right belief. Like I can do this. I can do this. I started to do better and I stopped having panic. And then you can attest to it. What happened at Worlds?
I mean, it was the best honestly, I was a little worried because you were watching Shauna and I'm like, damn it. I'm on the other side holding Dimitri. I'm like, babe, you're about to step on the map. Get your head in the game. And I looked at your opponent and she's like, hood up and she's like ready to fight, and you're just like watching Shauna and you're like yeah,
I was cheering for Shauna.
You're cheering for Shauna on your mat, and then they were like called you out there and you're like, oh, okay, and we're gonna go, and then you just snapped right into it, and then you were the most calm, cool, and collective that I've ever seen you, and you completely dominated the entire match.
I mean, I could have won it, but I could have done a few things better, but
listen, jury's out. Multiple black belts said you won that match. I don't know. I don't understand I do understand IBJJF. It's a cash grab. I'm super disappointed in that from what I saw at Worlds. I personally don't think I'll ever compete at an IBJJF. That was I don't even like talking about it because everybody says, well, you should have submitted or you should have had enough points to where
you didn't leave it up to the ref's decision.
But it was just wonky.
We tied. She won it because I got 2 penalties,
which were bullshit anyway. Like they went against their own rules. Anyways, you performed.
I did my best.
You performed your best. You're the best 40-year-old purple belt. You're the best. You're the third best purple belt at 40
years old at 136 pounds
in the world.
No, but seriously, my biggest victory for that whole thing was I did not get even that like crazy heart race
at all.
That like
you were
panic.
I
was the most calm and collected I'd ever been in a tournament. So my point is, for all these people listening, and you're talking about like your limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
Your limiting beliefs course is exceptional, by the way. If anybody hasn't checked it out, like that is all it is. It is about taking off the limiting belief and putting on the correct belief to take yourself to the next level.
Because I am a professional at creating limiting beliefs.
I'm a professional failure.
I'm a professional
at creating plenty of mistakes.
But I'm actually moving that limiting beliefs course to inside the Agogi. So the only way to get it is actually inside the Agogi. Yeah.
But still,
which is actually cheaper.
Yeah. The biggest thing being what we're getting at, the reason why I wanted to share that story, because it's much like your own. Once you conquer that.
Well, and that goes back to how I did it. And that goes back to my regret is seeking out mentorship and coaching, and not just like having a mentor, like a general, like Carl and Kirk were great for that time, and they still are great. But once I started paying for coaching, which was a very clear, this is where I'm at, this is where I want to go. How do I collapse that time? And the first one that I Bedros, which I ended up becoming business partners with him years later. But I did a year of that, and that is when, things just, I let go of limiting beliefs. I very, very intentionally created plans of where I wanted to go, utilize their network, and just collapse time. And that's the reason why, like, within a couple years, we went from a 6-figure business very rapidly within a couple years to a 7-figure business. And then a couple years later, we're at an 8-figure business. 2 8-figure businesses and a 7-figure business from nothing.
Yeah.
From nothing. From $400 to a fucking 8-figure business. And that is 100% based off of coaching and owning my shit and getting into these things. So going back to the Agogi, we started it 2018. It was very heavily in fitness. And I've talked about this a bunch, but guys were just not hitting their marks.
Yeah. They would get to a quick little, like, I'm going to do the cut and I'll get to this point. And then as soon as they hit it,
was done.
They'd fall off and gain 20 pounds and go right back to where they were.
And Josh and I are racking our heads because we've done it. We were great. We kind of fell off, had to deal with some veteran shit. And then, some limiting beliefs and just, our own, had to deal with some trauma and whatnot. But once you do, it's like you come back and you have that mindset. You're like, why are you self-sabotaging? And then that's really where I realized that men did not have a nutrition and fitness problem. Like, people don't. Like, that part is really simple.
I mean, and the thing is like, if you really learn and understand, like, what you should and shouldn't eat, like, it's not that difficult.
No, it becomes really easy.
Yes.
It becomes really easy. But the problem, we started realizing that the problem wasn't the training. It wasn't the nutrition. It was their mindset, and it was their traumas, and it was all the bullshit that they put in their head, and the way they've set up their life. And the reality is they've allowed, I always say, like, you're the CEO of your own life, you're the captain of your own ship. But we have allowed over the years and decades to allowed the opposition, the government, the people, whoever they are, to dictate our outcomes. The reality is people want us fat, sick, and dependent. And we've allowed to work in a system that dictates our routine, dictates our paycheck, dictates how much we pay on X, Y, and Z. And then what do? We escape it with food, drugs, alcohol, tobacco, entertainment, news, whatever it is, porn. We escape it. We escape the pain through those methods. And it's exactly what the devil wants, is exactly what the opposition wants. It is the plan of the opposition. It is a plan of evil to distract you. And that's when we started realizing, we have a bigger fight. And come 2020, when we started, we changed the name to the Agogi, that's when we really started going, okay, you want to be less fat. You want to get in shape. You want to be a role model for your kid. But we really got to deal with the space between your ears and your heart. And that's where the Agogi started to shift. And we ran that for 4 years.
And if you're distracted, you're not seeking answers.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things I think too, is like people are in these positions. And sometimes I feel like, even looking back at photos of myself and videos of myself at certain ages, I remember feeling like I didn't feel like I was super heavy. I didn't feel like I was overweight. I didn't feel like something was wrong. But looking back at those photos and seeing them, I'm like, oh my gosh, how was I so heavy and I didn't even realize it? So anyways, I feel like people don't always recognize where they're at and because they're so distracted.
Yeah.
Right. So what is it that you've changed? Like right now, you kind of had we had a long talk about it recently about like the Agogi and, people dealing with this stuff and being stuck and you really wanting to change like the mentorship piece.
Yeah. And I got to take responsibility for it, but we've just had the stories that we have. I mean, you've edited stories from guys, that have come through the Agogi. I mean, Brandon's edited them, seen the stories. Like it's
wild.
What we do is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. But for the last year plus, we've had a really difficult time, to be 100% honest, selling it and getting people to understand the value of it. And I guess the game has really changed. And I was using, to be 100% honest, I was using an old playbook on a game that worked in 2018 and worked in 2020.
Especially in 2020, because there wasn't anywhere to go. People had to have somebody coaching them,
Right. And then really looking at what the issue is at hand, and then going forward, looking at what I believe for the next 4 to 6 years of what can be achieved in wealth and growth over the next 4 to 6 years with this, we're changing into an age of authenticity. We have an authentic government coming in for the first time in a long time. You know, we're getting information of current events more from podcasts and more from people like ourselves and
short stories.
You know what I mean? Like
real form
instead of the news and the propaganda that's being out there. So we are really entering into in this age of authenticity, this, you know, and this opportunity with our financial system changing. We're moving from an industrial age to a technology age. So there's a lot of things changing, and we haven't really, the Agogi itself didn't keep up with that. And that's the reason, I think that's the reason why that it had. So Josh and I sat down and said, like, what do people really need? You know, what is the issue? And so we retuned the Agogi to create like this 4-phase line approach. First, mastering yourself in all areas. What does that mean? That means,
what does that mean?
It means your fitness. That means your discipline. That means your mindset, removing limiting beliefs, but taking a real hard look at yourselves, right? And a lot of people are like, well, I just want to be a better father. I want a better relationship with my wife. I don't want to be fighting with my wife. I want passive income. I want to have better finances. But it's like, dude, if you think that you're going to be financially disciplined when you can't even put the cookie down, like you have to master yourself before you can lead. Like, I can't tell you that to do X, Y, and Z if I'm not living it, because you're going to go like, you're a liar. I don't believe you. You know, it's like the guys that used to do the 30-day challenge, and like I started a 30-day challenge, so they put their whole family on it. It's like, dude, you were just drinking a beer and eating chips off your belly watching Netflix. Now today, where the whole family's on a macro plan, like I'm not buying it. So really having a educational phase line approach and really pushing into the age of education and technology. So being able to offer these digital classes within the group, like, listen, you're going to enter in for $69, you know,
and have access
to understand have access to me and my coaches to learn how to truly master yourself first and foremost. Now, once you've mastered yourself, well, now let's get into building a better relationship with your wife. Let's get your family on a set of core values. Let's get you a family plan. What does that look like? But first, dude, you have to master yourself. You know, like I can't, like you and I can't be good if I'm okay. Like you have to be good. You have to master yourself. I have to master myself as an individual, and we come together as a unit. So that's really where it came down to, was like, okay, let's master yourself. Then let's get your family on a plan. Let's master your family. Because for instance, well, like what if I could just master myself and go straight to finances? Okay, well, what if your wife's not on board?
Right.
What if she's spending, you know, X amount of dollars on Starbucks every day?
It's only a matter of time before, if you're trying to do something alone in a marriage, it's only a matter of time before that shit doesn't work.
Yeah, like, and you're going to hit resistance, and then it's going to cause
fitness.
And then it's going to cause fights. So like we really have to be able to master the family, get the family rules in place, get the family core values in place, get you guys on the same page, right? And then we can move into, okay, what are our debt non-negotiables? All right. How do we build cash flow? Do we need to downsize? And then once we've got that in place and that's working, well, now we get into the dynasty side of things, the legacy side of things. What comes after me and you? You know, what does our kids look like?
What are we leaving our kids with?
What are we leaving our kids?
What are we leaving our country with?
And not just the education, but like, here is the rule book. Here is the Rockefeller Waterfall Trust System. Here's the lawyers. Here's the things. Here's the resources you need to create this dynasty. What does real estate look like? How do you diversify into precious metals, cryptos, real estate, you know, the market, etc., your businesses, whatever that may be. But again, if it goes back, if you don't have discipline in yourself, you're never going to get there. And this is the reason why, if you look, and the point of that is, to prove it to you, look at every lotto winner. How many lotto winners won the lotto and then
created financial freedom,
created generational wealth for the rest of their family forever?
Yeah,
never. They burned through it. Why? Because they never had the discipline to start it. Any person who gets rich quick is going to get broke quick.
Same thing with nutrition and fitness. If you do a fad diet and you lose a bunch of weight, you just take Ozempic and you crush and get skinny, and then you come off, you get right.
Because you haven't changed your habits. And so that's where, when we sat down.
Or your beliefs about.
Right. And that's when we sat down with Josh, and then I had that conversation with you. I was like, I feel like this is the direction that God's taken me. I feel like this is the direction that I need to go. And I need a price point, you know, and it kind of goes back to the vision that I had, you know, of kind of building this army and this evil army that's out there, right? That's coming against the good, coming against the light.
The dead.
Yeah.
The undead.
The undead versus us. And I was like, well, how am I going to reach all these people? These people they don't have the resources. They're in a dark hole. So that's how we came up with like, okay, well, I'm going to over deliver in value and education for $69 a month, because anybody can come up with $69. And I want those people. I want the people that only could have $69 during this program, that $69 could change their life, their family's life forever. And that's the reason why, and you know, we're blessed in business, right? I've gotten to a place where the Agogi is not my only thing. I've got other things that are producing income for us. Plus we have assets that are producing income. Our crypto is producing income. Real estate's producing income. Like, we have other things that we're diversified that's producing income for us. So it gives me the ability to go, what is the mission of the Agogi? And the mission of the Agogi is to change people's lives.
Educate, inspire,
and educate,
motivate.
Yeah. And then so that's why, like, really looking at talking to Josh and be like, okay, what is our real intent here? And the intent and what do people need? And that's really where it came down to, is like, okay, we really need to put these guys in a phase line program with more education. And we do phase one very, very well, but it was never clear cut. It was more like on the individual basis and through the coaching calls, but never have we actually outlined this educational process like we have now, to where I think that moving into 2025 over the next, and I really do want to take these guys on a journey with me over the next 4 to 6 years, make people master themselves, make families whole again, make them, you know, and we have the spiritual religion, or I say spiritual component through the Men of Faithful Action. So we even have a spiritual side of the Agogi as well, that John Mark's running. And because I think that over the next 4 to 6 years, you're going to see more people that rededicate their life to Christ. I think you're going to see more generational wealth happen in the next 4 to 6 years. I think you're going to see men step up and become men again. I think that you're going to see families become whole again. I think we are turning into another age, and I just want to be able to on-ramp people to that fast, like people have done for me.
Yeah.
And they really, really have over the years have done that for myself. And I would be, let's be real, an asshole if I don't provide the opportunity to do that for my audience and for men that are seeking it.
That's so good. I feel like the biggest thing here too is just going into, like, let's say you're listening to this podcast and like, you're like, okay, yes, I made it through. We're here at Christmas. I feel like I want to explode. I remember I used to, around this time of year, just be like, I feel like I could crawl up in a ball. Like, I just want the holidays to be over. I want this to be over. I just want it to be over so bad.
Explain why.
I just, going through divorce and losing my stepkids and all that stuff. And that was like the most happy time, Christmas and the holidays. I had a blast. And so just like going through that and feeling empty and alone. And like, it just, even the winter, just being colder and not being able to be outside as much, like all those things would just add up. And at this time of year, it was like, I just want to get over. I just want it to be done. And like, that's so sad to like wish your life away, right? But like, that's where a lot of people are at right now. So if you're in that place, if that's who you are, if you feel like you don't recognize yourself, if you feel like all you can do is like distract yourself from your life and your current reality, if you feel like everything around you, like you're stuck and everything is absolutely falling apart around you, I just want you to take one look at this new webpage and determine if coaching
I thought you were going to say like in the mirror. Go look in the mirror.
Go look at the page and just say like, is this what you need? Do you need coaching? I'll tell you what, I've committed myself to more than one coaching program. I've done several. I have a personal fitness coach that I work with still to this day, and I have since I had my son. Mm-hmm. I have, like I said, I went through a female black belts coaching program. I've done several. And what I can tell you is like every time I open myself up that way and I'm vulnerable and say, what do I need to fix?
Yeah.
How do I get out of this rut or whatever it may be? I get this like brand new treasure in my lap of like awareness of what it is that I'm struggling with. Like sometimes I don't even know what it is, but at the beginning of last year with the coaching program I did, and then all through the spring, I continued it. It was 8 weeks. I got like a new sense of awareness of what I was struggling with and why. And
now, and the more it's kind of like the snowball effect. The more that you do it,
you're pulling the string.
The more that you seek more of it.
You're uncovering more.
Yeah.
You see while you're doing the things you're doing, the behaviors and the limiting beliefs that are holding you back, and you start to unravel it. You can start to fix it.
Yeah.
So I just really encourage people to check out your new site for the Agogi and just read into it. See if it's right for you. Because like ultimately, it has changed my life 1,000%. It's been 10 years. 10 years. And I can honestly say the best, like last 6 years have been the best years of my life. Last 5 years have been the best years of my life because I have like finally changed my mindset, changed my heart, and started to like put in the discipline, put in the work.
And the reality is the best is yet to come.
Yes.
And you know, like what we've been talking about the last Agogi Live, you know, we are built by discipline, but we're driven by purpose. And that's where I'll leave you guys. So if you're, you know, we wish you guys a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
And a Happy New Year. And if that's something that's you're passionate about, go give it a look. Give it a look and check it out.
New year.
Yeah.
New you.
Love you guys. Appreciate you.